Welcome back to Life and Art with Nicole, and I'm your host, Nicole. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss different lifestyle topics such as books, acting, music, art, television, health, wellness, and spirituality. And I am so excited because I have Jean Morisson here with me today. Jean is a singer, songwriter, and producer, and we are going to get into it as far as music is concerned, how her career is going, and everything else in between. So make sure to stay tuned. Jean, hi. Welcome.
Hello. Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
You too. It's been forever, so long.
Forever.
And yeah. And let's see, like, when is the last time I actually saw you? Like 2000 and before the pandemic, definitely.
Definitely. I think a lot of people saw that was the last time a lot of people saw a lot of people was before then.
Yeah, yeah. And so
But it has definitely been far too long.
right, definitely. And you're obviously still doing music and you look fantastic in your epic studio. So tell us what's going on. Like, where are you? What's happening?
So I am in Florida and I was going to different studios all over and from New York to Los Angeles. And I wanted to really have an amazing home base to create my art. So I said I was going to put off travel for a little bit, take all those funds, and create my space. So the name of my studio is Hush Studios, and this is where I record my magic.
Wow, it looks amazing. And so, how long has the studio been there?
The studio has been in operations for it's going on about 2 years.
Awesome.
Before then, I was doing a lot of travel, working with different people, doing things for myself, but I didn't have a space that I really loved. Like I've always had kind of home studios, but I wanted this to be more like a recording studio that you would go to than just a home studio. And so that's what I created here.
Awesome. And so for anyone that's not familiar with you, why don't you kind of give yourself like a little bit of an introduction so people know who you are, where they've heard your music before, and yeah, anything else you want to share?
Well, like you said, my name is Jean Morisson, and I am the lead singer, songwriter of the band Morrison Poe. You might know me from working with different artists like Ginger Minj, Adam Lambert, a lot of different people. I also have done scoring for music and soundtracks for video games. So yeah, I've done quite a few things. So if you don't know me, then you should, because I think we'd get along.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so what was the video game that you did the recording for, the soundtrack for?
One of the video games that we did the soundtrack for, we were actually placed in the game and did the soundtrack for was Perfect Dark Zero, which was the premiere game for the Xbox 360. And I was just a little baby then. I mean, I'm still a baby, but I was a baby then. Right. And we were so excited, and it was such a great opportunity. And it's really cool because our song is the opening of the game, and then another song plays on the credits. So we're all over it.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we're also on the actual soundtrack for the game. And so, yeah, that was amazing. A lot of fun. We got our music video premiered at that time on the Jumbotron in Times Square. And so, yeah, it was kind of an epic experience.
Oh my gosh, I bet that was like the coolest thing. I've always like wanted to see myself up in Times Square. I bet that was like an incredible experience.
It was just surreal. I was standing there like,
yeah, wow. And so
don't pinch me, don't wake me up.
Right, I know, right? And so I mean, music, the way I've known you for a while now, so I've always known you as this musician. And so clearly music is like in your bones. And so like, what inspired you to get into it? And did you start doing music, writing music, singing when you were young, or did that come later in life? Or yeah.
That's a great question. You know what is funny? I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. They've asked me so many other things, but really? They've never asked me that. How I started was actually my father is a singer and a performer. And when I was about 5 years old, my mom's like, okay, we're going to go to your dad's job. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, where are we going? So we get dressed up and it's like New Year's Eve. And we go to this club and it's packed and it's like all these lights. And all of a sudden I'm like, these lights are everywhere. And then I hear them say my dad's name. And then like the curtain parts and there's my dad performing. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. I was like so in awe and just like enamored by how amazing he was, the way everything looked, the way he sounded, you know, how everybody was just going crazy. And it just sparked me. It sparked me immediately. I knew at that moment that's what I was going to be.
Wow.
And and my mother, I'm not going to say what, is a writer. She wrote novels and different things. And so I feel like it's a really great balance where I get my performing and my singing from my dad and then the writing from my mom. But at first I thought I was going to be an R&B singer.
Really?
Look at that little shock. You know, I really did, because my mother listened to like Motown. My older sisters listened to like R&B and stuff like that. So I was just like inundated with that music. And I was just like, oh, it's just so amazing. And this is what I want to do. And then I had other family members introduce me to rock. And then I started reading a lot of poetry, you know, from Poe to Keats. And then that sparked. And honestly, in the moment where I started really getting into rock music and really reading the poetry is when I realized that not only did I want to be a rock star, but I also wanted to be a poet.
Wow.
And so that's really when I started to write.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it all sparked from my mom and dad, just seeing them do their thing.
What genre was your dad singing in? What was his genre?
My father was a salsa performer. Like he did like Spanish music. And so he would get on stage and play the percussion and sing and dance. And all these women were like, oh, you know.
I bet, yeah.
And, you know, he was just so great at it. His voice was so beautiful. And I think that's a really beautiful side of things too, is that like a lot of people don't know my ethnicity. They guess, and sometimes they guess far, but that is like, I feel a really integral part of who created who I am today. It's just hearing all of these different sounds and songs, and from English to Spanish, or, you know, it didn't matter. Like it was just, I was so surrounded by music my whole life that to me, it was so normal. Yeah. Like even though my mother couldn't sing, God bless her, she could not sing, but she sang her heart out. I mean, if it was a song that you love, she sang her heart out. But what I really also absorbed from my mother was whenever we'd be sitting around and she'd put on, I don't know, let's say the soundtrack to, I'm trying to think, there was one in particular that I swear to you, she made me listen to on repeat. So it was like Motown and all these like old songs, but she would always go, listen to the lyrics, listen to what they're saying, listen to how beautiful, look how much he's so in love with her. And I would just be like, you know, at first I'd be like, yeah, you know, okay, mom, you know, I'm like 5. But then as time went on, I really started to appreciate what she was doing, because she really instilled in me the importance of words. Yeah. And so when I'm sitting there with her and she's like, oh, you know, he just wants to like get away, or he just wants to do this, and he just wants this for his life, or she's singing about how much she's lost, I really, really, really paid attention, because she was so emotive about it. She was so emotional about it. And even though she couldn't sing, I believe since she was a writer, she really understood what it all meant. Right. And so now when I think back on times with my mom, I think, man, she really marked me and really carved me into understanding the intensity and the power of words.
Right. And I'm so glad you said that. Well, several things you actually said that kind of made me like be like, oh, that's so interesting. I used to love to listen to soundtracks when I was like in middle school. But they were the soundtracks like done by what's the name of the really famous like composer that did all like the big movies in like the 90s and early 2000s. He would always do like
Not John
Ridley,
Williams. I think it's somebody
like he would
John
do like the
Williams.
Ridley Scott movies. Well, anyway, I would listen to those soundtracks, and even though there weren't any lyrics, I would just, the music itself could transport you into that world. And so I love that she would listen to soundtracks. And then on top of that, the fact that she would listen to the lyrics of, the songs, that she was
Oh
listening
yeah.
to. It's so important because the words, the music, everything together they do transport you to this other place. And there's so much
100%.
power. Yeah, there's power in
100%.
words. Yeah, and there's power in the actual like musical experience.
Yeah, I feel like people they do understand the power of music, but music is so important because it really does transcend language barriers, culture. It really does. It's like I always say, to me, it's the ultimate form of time travel.
Yes.
Because you can put on that song and you can go back to when you were 7 years old. You can go back to when you were a teenager. I mean, we still are, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can honestly be transported back in time. Yeah. And the fact also that music and frequency can even heal your body. It's so incredible. And I feel so lucky and so honored that the universe chose me to be a part of that.
Yeah. To be a vessel.
Because I could have, because I could have been anything. And I may have maybe even, never truly understood the importance and beauty of music. But for some reason, that little light came down into me, and I was, chosen to be a part of this collective. And I just feel so fortunate for that gift.
Right. That's amazing. And so like when you are either listening to or recording your own music, do you ever get that like chills sensation whenever it's like perfect and you're like, this is the song, this is it, especially when you're recording your own, right? Do you ever have that moment where everything comes together, like the snare and the the this and the that, and then I don't know all the musical terminology for that, but like you know what I mean.
The guitar, no,
like the snare, I know that word. Understand. Do you ever get that, like when that moment where you feel it in your bones, like this is it,
Oh yeah, and that's the most amazing feeling. It's kind of like when there's lightning in a bottle, and that lightning is for you. I have been either recording a vocal or I've been in the studio tracking, and all of a sudden I've gone, man, that's it. That's it. And I could feel it in my stomach. I feel it in my heart. I feel it all over my body. It's like this amazing lava that just pours all over you, and you just know that it is it. And it's really cool because I've never sat down and gone, I'm going to write a song. I've been sitting there and then lyrics just pop into my head, and then I write it all down, and then I realize that poem is the song. So it's like I'm always saying I'm always transferring my poetry into music.
Do you have to hear the song first before you write, or does it kind of you write first and then you hear the song?
I can do it either way.
Okay.
But primarily I will write first, and then I'll be like, this is this song. But when I've written for other artists, they will call me and say, oh, I want to write a song about, let's say, not having a relationship with my dad. I always try to put myself in the point of view, in the shoes of the person. I never think, well, how would I feel about, if I really didn't have this relationship with my dad? But it's more like, how do they feel? And so I kind of try to absorb them, and I try to write from their point of view, which is why a lot of times when I've written for other artists, nobody knows they didn't write the song.
Wow.
Because I really try to gather as much of their own emotions to make them really feel like they did write it.
What's your process in that? Do you sit down with them, kind of meet them, learn more about them, and then, or do you listen to their other music? Do you have a conversation with them? Like, how does that, like, come to
Well,
you?
it depends on the person. There are people that want to be hands-on, there are people that don't. So
Mm.
it's more like I'll have an initial sit down and I'll say, okay, well, what do you want? What are you hearing? Tell me about the kind of songs that you want that you would want me to write. Like for instance, there was a moment where I had to write a comedic song. I had never done this before. I had to write a comedic song for Margaret Cho and Ginger Minj.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I had never, ever written a comedic song. So I had to then come up with a concept on the spot. They decided to both call me at the same time and, be on like this chat call here. And we're like having a conversation. And I'm like, wait, what? And so they're like, yeah, so give us a concept. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I started thinking, okay, it's Margaret Cho, it's Ginger Minj, blah, blah, blah. So then just on the spot, I'm like, look, if they love it, they love it. If they hate it, they hate it. But at least I tried, because
Sure.
what I've learned in life is if you don't go for it, you're going to miss every opportunity. I'd rather try and fail than not try.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on the phone with them. I'm like, okay, this is what I think we should do. I think it should be that Margaret Cho calls Ginger Minj, to like invite her out or whatever. But Ginger Minj misreads it. And what is really going on is while Ginger thinks it's a masquerade party, Margaret Cho really wants Ginger to help her rob a bank. So she's like, bring a mask,
So she thinks she's going to a party. That's
Right.
hilarious.
So then they loved it. And I was like, cool. So that was really awesome. I got to work with them both and we tracked the song and it came out really, really great. And I loved it. But, so it depends. When I worked with Ginger, it was more like Ginger talked to me about their life. And then I just wrote on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, here's 13 songs. What do you think? And they're like, let's do all 13 songs. And I'm like, oh, let's go.
Wow. That's awesome. And so when you are writing your own music, do you write about like personal experiences? Do you write about concepts, philosophies? Obviously I'm familiar with your music, but for the listener and the viewer, where does that inspiration come from?
Honestly, it comes from the moment, because there are times, I'm sitting there and I'm feeling very stoic and, morose. And I'm like, oh, and I just think of this poem, or I think of a first line and I'll just write it down. And then it just comes and comes and comes and comes. And then I'm like, okay, that's it. Or I'm extremely turned on the whole day. And then
and it turns into a song.
And then it turns into a song. And so honestly, it depends on, I really feel like I am a vessel. Yeah. And like I said, I don't sit and say, I'm going to write this today. It's more like I'm sitting there and the universe is like, boom.
Like divine inspiration almost.
And I'll just say one line in my head and then I'll go, that's it. And then I'll start to write and then it just comes to me and you cannot speak to me. You cannot interrupt me. You cannot bug me. I need to just do what I'm doing because I feel like it's coming to me in signal and I'm receiving it. And so that signal can't be interrupted. And it was really funny because when I really got into writing when I was younger and I started to read, Frost and all of these amazing poets, I would like lock myself in my closet. And there have been like a million times that my mom would like open the closet door. I'm in the dark with a candle and like a quill. Awesome. I wanted to, I had read about these times and these experiences and, thus thou and everything else. And I'm like, man, I want to know what this is like. I'm like, where do I get a quill? Where do I get ink? Where do I, so I'm sitting in the dark with like a candle because I'm like, that's how they would write, right? Yeah. They didn't have electricity. So I'm like, okay, let me light this candle. Let me be in my closet because I knew that was the only place nobody would like interrupt me. And let me dip this ink and let me learn how to write. And my mom would open the door. I'd be covered in ink, the candles burning, papers everywhere. And she'd just be like, okay.
Oh my gosh. That is like, I literally see you doing that. And I mean, I get it because I definitely get it because I used to love Edgar Allan Poe when I was young. Like I
Mm.
loved it. I used to, because I played piano, so I would play Beethoven, which was also very moody and dramatic. And then I would,
Oh yeah.
read Poe, and I was all into like this sort of moody, like, those times. So I get it,
Oh yeah.
wanting to feel in it because they didn't have the distractions that we have today. They were
No.
able to be perfect.
Immerse themselves
Yes.
in just their environment. I mean, there was so much more to feel because there was so much less interference. So
Yes.
when they decided to sit because they were inspired, I mean, they were inspired by the feel of the wind, the color of
Yes.
the moon, the sound of the dripping water, or the sound of the water coming, pouring on their windowsill because it's raining, all of those things that we just don't see, although I
Mm-hmm.
still see.
Yeah.
I
Same.
I still see. I
Mm-hmm.
hear everything. I see everything. I could be laying in my bed and I will listen to a bird running back and forth on my windowsill, and the way that bird is tapping across, I'm writing a song. So
Wow.
I try to still pay attention to my environment because I'm very connected to things. So yeah, I would lock myself in the closet. I turn the candle on because that must have been such a magical experience, such a
Yeah.
magical time.
I totally agree, because the uninterrupted connection that they had with nature, their environment, and to be able, like you just said, to be able to interpret it through their own art in a sense, and then project
Your
that and share that.
entertainment was feeling and
Yes.
observing.
Wow.
What a miraculous thing
That's
to
incredible.
experience a play, to listen to music, to watch people speak, move, dance.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing for fun.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, obviously both you and I have a clear affinity for the old times. I mean, I wasn't sitting in a closet with a quill. I think that's incredible that you even did that.
You
Um,
can join me the next time.
right. Do you think that our times now have, I mean, obviously they've sort of removed people from the natural world. They've removed people from their true connection to everything. Do you think that
Mm-hmm.
that has affected art, or like music in your case, like, cause that's your specialty? Do you think that music now is more so like quick pumping it out just to get entertain people? Or do you think maybe the true essence of music has lost its sort of thrill? you know
I have two sides to that. And I feel like this. I feel that music would never be what music was then now because that was that time. And everything needs to evolve. Everything needs to become a part of whatever is happening then. So because I feel that people were more forced to be more in tune with themselves, I think things were different. I think now, yes, we do have more of the let's have one hit wonders, let's pump it out, let's just give them what they want quickly. But I feel that when you really dig and not what the masses are trying to give you, and you really look, independent artists are feeling. They
Yeah.
are giving you their guts and their heart and their soul
Mm.
because they have no choice. One, and two, why would they even be out there with the struggle if that's not how they felt? It
Right.
is so much easier to give up on all of this. This is so excruciating. This is so painful. When you are an artist of any kind, you put everything you have into what you do. And it is so much easier to go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go be a banker because this
Yeah.
is really awful. And this is a lot of hard work. And, I feel that being an independent artist, you have your rewards, but you also have your challenges, where we get to create our own music and we get to create our own sound. We don't have to answer to anybody. It's really on our own terms. It allows us to be more authentic with our creativity. But the downside is that you have to then try to break into the industry and you have
Yeah.
to try to build a fan base and you have to try to be heard. And that is extremely difficult. And I've had people in the past say to me, Jean, I don't understand with this, as talented as you are and everything, why don't you have a label? Like, why aren't you signed? And I'm very quick to answer, that is by choice.
Mm.
That is by choice.
Yeah.
There are parts of my soul I am not willing to part with just to have brighter lights.
Yep. Yeah.
And so there have been so many times that I've been sitting in the office of majors, and there we will give you this and we will give you that.
Wow.
And you can have this and you can have that. But you're going to have to change your sound. But you're going to have to not be as edgy. But you can't talk about the fact that you're bisexual or that you like girls or whatever it is. Or this or that. And I'm not willing to do that. I feel like if you discovered me and you said, wow, she's something special, why do you want to change that?
Right.
Now I understand that there's refinement. I'm not talking about refinement. I'm talking about a complete 360.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to do that. So I take what I know, the connections I've made, the experiences I've had, and I fly with it. Because I would much rather have an audience of 5 being my truest self than an audience of 1 million being somebody I am not.
Right. Having to forfeit who you really are, your voice, the things that you experience, the messages that you're receiving.
Yes, being a woman in the industry, you know, there are a lot of things that are asked of you that are not asked of, you know.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You know, and so that's something else also. I'm not here to compromise myself, mind, body, and spirit.
And your integrity.
So my integrity, my desires, my mental health, you know, success comes in many forms. And if you continue to strive to do what you are doing and you continue to believe in what you are doing, you will get there. You will find that perfect door that is right for you. But don't just go through any door because you're afraid you'll never find another. That is incorrect.
Right. Wow. Well said. We were talking about Poe, obviously. And so clearly the name of your group is Morrison Poe. Was that inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, or did that come from something else?
It was, but we were named, we didn't have an exact name yet. And we were doing like kind of a mock show just to see. And someone came up to us, which became a future fan, and they said, your music and your lyrics remind me of a cross between Jim Morrison and Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, there it is.
Wow, that's so good. And so was that the first band or group that you ever had, or did you start with another group and then moved with them, or?
No, basically Morrison Poe before it was Morrison Poe. I had other guitarists, other drummers, but by the time we got our name, we were the group that you knew for the longest. Like now I have a different bassist and guitarist than I originally did. But in the beginning, before we had an actual name, we were all together, and then we became Morrison Poe.
Wow, very cool. And so you guys are back together, or did you take a hiatus or a break? I mean, how did that work?
Well, we're always together, but we tend to do side projects. Each of us are creative in our own ways. So we tend to take what we know and, go and work with other people. So we always consider ourselves a band that just kind of takes little vacations.
That's cool. That's great. And so you guys have a new album coming out, right?
Yes. So in the new year, we have a new single coming out, which is called Sickness. And Sickness comes from a moment where I was just sitting there and I was thinking about what I truly desire, what I truly want, how I truly want someone. And I thought to myself, I don't want to just desire. I want to feel as though I want to be a part of that person's body, live inside of their rib cage, consume their skin, that kind of thinking. And so that is where the song stems from. And and actually sing it in a register. I have never sung it before. I decided to go much lower. And I think people are going to be saying to themselves, is that Jean?
Oh, so you're not singing in your normal, like...
No, I am not.
Wow. Well, I guess your normal would be, wherever you release your breath from your diaphragm, but
Well, I mean, there's altos and sopranos and whatever. I mean, I consider myself like a cross between an alto and a soprano, but I went, you know what? I don't even want to say too much more. You
yeah,
just need
yeah,
to
yeah.
hear
We'll wait till it
it.
comes out.
So
We'll wait
that
till
will
it comes
be
out.
released in the new year with a video. And I think what the plan is, well, not I think, I know what the plan is. The plan is this. We are going to be releasing singles, and then that will form an album.
That's really
I think
cool.
that the way that people really love to consume things now, that's more effective and
Yeah.
a lot more fun for me, because then I just kept, keep putting it out. So yeah, so we are in the process of finishing the album, but they will be released as singles. The second single after Tremendous will be Sickness in the new year with a
Very
video.
cool. Very, very cool.
Look
And
out for it.
so, like your musical style, obviously, you mentioned like earlier on in our conversation, you said that you kind of have blended a lot from your youth and the music that you were inspired by. What genre would you say that you are, or have you created your own genre?
I feel like we've kind of created our own, because I write for inspiration. I don't write for genre.
Mm, yeah.
So when you hear a Morrison Poe song, it will never fit one thing. I don't want to be put in a box. I want that if I sit there and I'm struck by a song and it just happens to be a little bit more soulful, I don't want to go, oh, well, that's not really rock.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I kind of we tend to write. I tend to write for the song and
Yeah.
perform it, and not
Mm,
for the genre, because I feel that people are very intelligent, people are very amazing, and they will get it, and they don't need everything to be here,
yep.
you know?
Yeah.
So we are Morrison Poe, but we are everything.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason why is because, yeah, we're all multifaceted people. Not a single one of us is just this our whole lives. We all
Yeah.
change. We're all malleable. We all are inspired by different things. And I do
Yeah.
think it's such an outdated way of thinking that we need to, one, put artists in a box, and two, put people in a box, like the type
Exactly.
it's like the type of music that I have grown up listening to. I've listened to everything from, heavy metal to like classical soundtracks. So I am like
Yeah.
a full
Exactly.
spectrum. And that's how most people are, and especially artists. So yeah, I can appreciate
Yeah. I
that.
mean, that's like saying, okay, Nicole, be happy today, and tomorrow I want you to be sad, and then
Mm,
on Wednesday I want you to be confused. We
yeah.
feel different things at different times, at all times.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't music reflect that? I mean, my dad used to listen to country. I love country music. A lot of people
Yeah.
they probably don't even know that about me. I love country music because I feel like it is so still to the vein of songwriting, like ballad. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I listen from anything from country to R&B to rock to Korean. I listen to all. I mean,
K-pop.
I'm into K-pop.
Yeah.
It was amazing, to meet the Stray Kids. They were so cool, and they're such amazing dancers, and they are so good looking.
Yeah, they are. I know. They all
Is
are
that
like
cool?
perfect, like perfect looking people.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just like, hey.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. We write for how we feel and not for what we're supposed to be.
yeah, that's great. I love that. And so you've been to South by Southwest a few times and the
Mm-hmm.
Grammys a few
Mm-hmm.
times. What were your experiences being? Because those are clearly very like industry driven events that celebrate artists, obviously, but as an independent artist who's kind of like adverse to being put into a box, how does it feel to be among like your peers that are in that box? And you know what I'm saying? Like, how is it in that aspect?
I mean, it's kind of cool because you see a good percentage of them that are in a box, but you see a few of them that are really just trying to be their own. And so it's really cool to see their different styles, their different ways of being, how they handle being around people, being on the red carpet, how some tend to talk very, methodically, and others are just like, fuck it, I'm gonna say whatever I want.
Mm.
So I think now with the way that music is shifting, we are tending to see a little bit more originality
Yeah.
and weirdness, and people being eclectic, being an
Mm.
artist, and not being held to any, this is your sexuality, you have to seem straight, you can't,
Yeah.
which I'm loving, how everything is becoming beautifully queer. That's
Yeah.
the world I want to live in.
Yeah.
I want to live in a world where everybody can just be themselves, love whoever they want, and be happy,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
that's,
It's definitely like Age of Aquarius vibes, like this sort of
yeah, yeah,
humanitarian, everyone is like that
yeah.
individuality, but still part of the collective type.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, also, and what I've seen in going to these like in industry parties, like I went to a really awesome pre-Grammy party at Jimmy Iovine's house in Los
yeah.
Angeles, and yeah, it was great because you saw like the newbies there, and then you saw like the really big stars, and sometimes the newbies act more arrogant than the really big stars. So I think it just
Wow.
really depends on the mindset of the person. Everybody's always like, oh, once that person got famous, they really became an asshole. No, that person was always an asshole. Now they have money.
Wow. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Because let's
Yeah.
let's just be real here. Let's just have real talk. Yeah, but I have great times. I've seen a lot of really cool things. I've really observed. You know, it's kind of like being in the wild. And like there is the tiger and there's the zebra. You know what I mean? And you're just kind of like observing, going, this is kind of fucking cool and
Yeah.
really neat. Yeah, and now to be associated with being a voting member of the Grammys. I'm very proud of that. And so
Wow. Congrats. That's amazing.
thank you very much. Yeah, so that's very cool. And you have to get like letters of recommendation. You can't just be like, hey, I want to be a
Mm,
voting member.
yeah.
So I got some really awesome letters. I got a letter from Nile. I got a letter from Apollonia of Purple Rain Prince.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
She's
who she
she's
is.
she's so yeah, but everybody. I'm just shouting out to the queen. Uh,
Yeah.
she is she's still so beautiful, so hot,
I
so
bet.
sweet.
Yeah.
I love her so much, and a couple of other people that I have worked with. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about having a hand in what's next.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so speaking of Nile, obviously, I met Nile through you, like when we were doing your music video a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that was a really incredible opportunity you asked me to interview everyone, and I got to interview Nile and talk with him, and then also, hang out with him when we went up to Connecticut. That was really great. And I really do appreciate you for like those experiences, just because
My pleasure.
yeah, I mean, music is not my niche. It's obviously acting and writing and stuff, but I appreciate music so much, and I appreciate legends like Nile. And so, so being able to meet him is like incredible, but you have known him, worked with him. He almost sort of like helped you mold your career, right?
Yeah, he is a mentor for sure in my journey. And how we met was really funny because someone had tipped him off to the band, and the band is doing a sold out show in New York City. And so he shows up, and he shows up at the moment where I'm on stage pouring milk on myself, going, is it hot in here or is it me? And yeah, the rest is history.
And he was like, her, I got to work with her.
Yeah,
Milk,
and
it does the body good,
yeah,
and it brings Nile Rodgers.
It brings Nile Rodgers to you. Yeah, so, and it's really funny because still to this day he tells that story of how we
Yeah.
met. And yeah, and after that he was the executive producer on my first album. He played on almost all my stuff, and just I signed to his label. He's the one that got us on the video game soundtrack. So he has been such an integral part of the shaping of not only my band, but me as an artist. Also, the way that he handles himself as an artist, I have so much respect for. He's so charming and charismatic and respectful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what is also a really amazing factor about Nile is that even though just recently, like, he won Grammys for Beyonce and all of the stuff, he is still so humble and so down to earth and so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, really says a lot about a person for the magnitude of star that he is.
He truly is a legend. Yeah.
He is a living legend that still looks like he's 40 years old. Like,
yeah. And I mean, you're so right, because when I met him and, we were in his home, and he was so hospitable, and seeing, the plaques on the wall for Diana Ross,
all the platinum records.
That was incredible. And then going into the room that Madonna stayed in when he was honing her career, like, and then he came and was just like hanging out and talking to us. And I was like, this guy is a literal legend, and he's so freaking cool. He's so much cool. Nicer than like people that I know, like, that aren't doing anything special, and so just the fact that
there's never been a time where I needed something where I'm like, hey, I would really love for you to plan this, that he was ever like, no.
Wow.
Of course not.
And that's
he's
so
always
good.
like, of course, I would love to just, send it over, blah, 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 and I think it's really cool is he was working with Daft Punk for Random Access Memory when he was working on our album. So we were doing things at the same time. And again, it's like no time was spared. He gave the same amount of time,
wow,
to me and to us, showing up for the video, and he's just always been there, and I've always had such an admiration for him. And he's definitely a mentor. I mean, I've worked with such amazing people. Another guitarist that's so incredible, which is Vernon Reid of Living Color.
I know that name.
Mm-hmm. He is my bud. He is amazing. Wow. We actually wrote a song together that we're going to be putting out hopefully in the new year.
Wow.
And so I've just been able to meet all of these really amazing people, and luckily they've been so gorgeous and so sweet, that I haven't had an experience where I've been like, oh my God, I just had them in my memory and not like actually had a conversation. But Nile is just starting. I mean,
didn't he just start a big, like a $1 billion company, or his company?
He has all of these things going on, and he has his own like sunglass line, and
awesome.
Come on, he's like so dope.
Like, that's so cool to have someone like that in your corner and to root for you and to support you. And I feel like every artist wants that and craves that. And you are so fortunate to have that. And, it's amazing, because clearly you're meant for this, because, like the fact that you have been able to have such important people in the music industry, like, rally behind you and keep you up and supported. That is one of the things that is kind of a breaking point for a lot of artists when they don't have that. They don't have that support. Just like you had mentioned earlier, it's so hard. What we do as artists to pursue art, you know what I'm saying? Because
it's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. You have to really say to yourself, I love this, because it is all of your time, all of your thought, all of your effort, all of your money.
Mm-hmm. It is. And
it is a spouse.
Definitely. And you're pouring your heart and your soul into your art, and especially for your music. And so there's so
many times that you want to give up. I'm sure there's so many times that you were like, I've had moments where I was, and I have known I wanted to do this since I was 5, like I said. And I've had moments where I'm like, I quit.
Yeah. I've literally said to myself, I'll quit. I mean, I was kind of a little fortunate, I will say this lightly, but with the writer strike and the actor strike, because it did sort of like calm everything down. And it wasn't so like going on auditions and stuff. Obviously that hasn't happened for you in your industry. Like, it's just always go, go, go with music. But like, just being an artist.
Shows definitely paused, and touring definitely paused.
Oh, right.
There was a time where you were doing shows online.
Wow, during the pandemic.
Wow. Because that was really the only way to be seen. So the majority of musicians decided to go online and do like little sets.
Wow.
Yeah, because there was no touring. They were canceling festivals and shows.
Yeah.
And so
I remember. Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
It's so, yeah. I mean, obviously we have to adapt. We have to adapt to those things. And I mean, every industry at the end of the day has to adapt to whatever challenges that come, like,
Oh yeah, of course.
and then, but I feel like as artists, and I'm not trying to like toot our horn, but like there's a lot that goes into it. Like
Toot away.
like, I do this because like obviously all the guests that I have on are in their own respective art fields, right? And whether that's writing, whether that's music, whether that's producing, directing, acting, and we all have a different thing to contribute to this conversation. But the underlying theme is that what we do takes so much out of us from inside going out, and then it takes a toll. It just takes a toll, and then we're just all in and we need the support. It's just, the conversation is basically the same across the board, And so I just, I, as an artist, I give a huge shout out to every single artist in the world. And, I always want people to encourage people to continue doing their art, and to see people succeed like yourself, and to see other artists who have succeeded to help bring up new artists, is incredible.
Yeah. And don't get in the mindset that there's only space for you and you have to just grab everything. And don't have, I like to call it a Daffy Duck mentality.
Yeah.
Me, my. Like, if I saw another artist, male or female, would matter to me, not at all. And I thought they were incredible, I'm going to ladder them up.
Yeah.
I'm not a lobster. I'm not going to pull you down. Right. I'm going to ladder you up. And I feel that if more artists help to ladder other artists, because they understood that there's a fan base for everyone.
Yeah.
You'd see a lot more success with the independents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think, also, as you'd kind of mentioned, like things are changing. Everything ebbs and flows. Every industry ebbs and flows. Everything we're seeing now, a lot of attention to being online and having an online presence. How much has like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook played a part in like staying in front of your audience, and has that propelled your career forward? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
The mob is Rome, and right now the mob is online.
Yeah.
So how things were done no longer exists. And I'm tired of old ass people being like, oh, the internet now just ruins everything. Everybody used to talk. No, look, people are using the internet as an excuse not to talk. Maybe they just don't want to talk, But the bottom line is, this is the world that has been created, and you either adapt or you die.
Yeah.
And so right now, the masses are online and they're on TikTok and all of these things. And what is really amazing about TikTok is that you get to just be whatever you want. It is the Wild West. You can create whatever you want, and there's an audience for you.
Yeah.
I swear the other day I was on there and there was a live feed of somebody in Mexico they were dressed like a robot, and they were just dancing around their house to Tejano music. And I was like, this is amazing. Because what other time would I be able to see this? They never put this on like, NBC,
right.
Or like, what I mean? So it's like people are migrating from YouTube, I feel, to TikTok, because I feel like TikTok has more leeway. It has more breathing ground, and it is much easier for you to be seen on TikTok than now even on YouTube. Yeah. You got to really search. You have to know what the person's handle is. You have to really like pay for promotion. But man, hey, I'm sorry that you're used to like picking up a guitar and going and playing at your local bar and people showing up. But sir, my guy, that's not the world we live in now.
Right.
So pick up that same guitar, get in front of TikTok and sing your song and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the age of the internet, and you're right. Like there's so much freedom of expression now. Like once you'd said earlier, we're no longer confined to these boxes that these big industries want everyone to be in. We have the freedom to be our own genre. We have the freedom to express ourselves how we want. We have the freedom to say what we want. You
don't have to answer to daddy. you can do whatever.
There you go. Yeah.
Because I promise you, if you have a label, as magnanimous as that sounds, again, coming from a person who's been offered many, you lose a lot of your money. I'm sorry, let's just be honest. You lose most of your money.
Being with a label?
You are basically signing over your money, the ownership of things that belong to you. It's like you're just giving everything up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that sounds super exciting, but understand, if you're not like Prince or you're not like Imagine Dragons, they're not going to put the money behind you. So then you're probably going to get shelved, and then they're going to have the ownership of your songs for decades. It's not worth the hype.
Yeah. Wow.
And done right, it could be amazing. But there was a time where labels were making legendary artists, where you had Prince, where you had Michael Jackson, where you had Whitney Houston, where you had, people like that are legendary artists. But now we don't have that.
Right.
We have kind of the one-off crew, which is okay, but they're not going to put the $1 million. You're not going to get the $1 million deal.
Right. Yeah.
And speaking of Prince, I was very lucky enough to see one of his last shows. Aww. And I was a guest of Nile's. He was playing, trying to remember, I think playing in Atlanta. Oh my God, no, he was playing in New Orleans. Okay, he was playing somewhere. It was very, very cool. And Prince was doing the show with him. And
amazing.
I had kind of run into Prince before, but I had never met him. And so I was backstage and I was doing his sound check. And I was standing with a friend of mine, and Prince walks out, and he's standing kind of like right by where I am. And I had a Purple Rain moment where he pulled down his glasses to look at me, and then he put off his glasses. And I was like, holy shit.
Amazing.
And then he came by to where I was, and he started talking, and he asked another really good friend of mine, a comedian named Russell Peters, what time Nile was going to be done or whatever. And like, Russell's dying. He's like, oh my God, this is Prince. This is Prince. And I was like, bro, be cool. And then Russell went backstage. Prince stayed there, and he came to talk to me. And I was just like, man, this is incredible. And then when he played his show, I was sitting on a couch, side stage, on the stage, while he performed.
Wow.
And I just remember thinking to myself, remember this forever.
Yeah.
Because this is epic.
Yeah.
And he was super cool. And he was small.
Yeah. I remember I never met him.
Small but mighty.
I never met him, but I did see him. He walked right past me, and he was in Raleigh, and he'd done a show, I guess. And it was like at the after kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was there. I wasn't expecting him to show up, and he did. And yeah, he was really small, and he had the frilly shirt. And I was like, oh my God, it's Prince. I feel like Prince is one of those people. He's probably one of the few people in the world that can starstruck. Anyone is starstruck when they see him, or when they him. Even stars, like even famous people. Like
I'm telling you,
we're starstruck.
Russell Peters is a massive comedian, massive, international, huge star. Saw Prince, was like, what?
Yeah. I remember Jamie Foxx did his like stand-up show, and he was talking about how he was starstruck when he saw Prince. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just incredible that you got to see him perform, and you got to see him like before. And, speaking of like stars, and who was that person for you that like obviously your dad, you were inspired by your dad. Was there anyone else in your journey that was just like, yes, like I want to embody that type of energy or anything like that?
Performance-wise, when I first saw Prince, because I have sisters that are older than me, which was really beautiful because I got introduced to things at a very young age. And so I got to see things and understand things. And so for me, Prince is a huge inspiration in my performing, in my, I won't say persona, because this is just me, but in who I am. So when it comes to performing and stuff like that, I would have to say Prince. Somebody I saw that made me go, besides Nile and Chic, which every time they play is ridiculous. it's ridiculous. Like I'm telling you, I've seen them play with other people that are big and they just leave them in the dust.
Wow.
And I'm just like, man. Other than that, I have to say, meeting Melissa Etheridge
Oh.
got me in the heart because she's always been such an inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got to meet her and talk to her and share my music, when I first walked up to her, I was thinking to myself, that's Melissa Etheridge. And you're there. And I kind of manifested it because just a couple of weeks before I had done a cover of one of her songs.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So I was like, I made this happen. I brought you to me. But she was so sweet and beautiful. And so meeting her was like, I was just like, wow.
Wow.
And then I think when Vernon Reid walked into the studio in New York City, we were tracking at Electric Lady and he walked in and I was like, he's going to play on my songs. And I was just like,
Wow.
whoa.
So cool.
And I've met like big, huge people, but I just feel like I felt kind of a part of them where other people, since I had been so inspired by them, when I got a chance to see them, I was just like, this is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's so cool that you got to meet the people that you were inspired by. Like, I don't think many people can say that, you know? So that's incredible. And wow, Jean, I loved this conversation. This was so
I
great.
love this
And
conversation too. This has been
yeah,
amazing, amazing,
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, and the band has a lot of stuff coming up, and I'm going to be relaunching my podcast for Dumb for Love and another one called Unfiltered, and that'll be happening in the new year. So I'm probably going to have you on there
Yes,
talking a lot of.
absolutely. So we could chat more.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so things are transitioning right now for me musically. There's going to be some changes. I have some things that are brewing, which I'm not going to mention right now,
Okay.
but you will see. That's how I'd like to live my life now. You will see.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm very excited of what's to come, of the evolution of our sound. And like my mom would say, being Peter Pan and never growing old.
Awesome. I love it. That's good. That's so good. Well, so you had mentioned briefly, if you want to go ahead and tell people, well, one, where they can find you, your music, anything else. And then also, you'd mentioned a doll. So let's
Yes,
find out
okay, so
about that too.
let me get into a few things here. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, at Jean Morisson or at Morrison Poe, 1R, 2 S's. And we are going to be putting up a lot more music on Spotify. There is some music there, but we're doing a revamp because of the new year and a lot of things that are happening. But you can still check out a good amount of the music on Spotify, and you can see our videos on YouTube. Our latest single is called Tremendous. And yeah, check it out. Now for the doll. I had one of the best birthdays this year, I think, that I've ever had. And I was lucky enough to have, cool. Okay. So the name of their channel is Crystal Moon Dolls, and they do doll customization and review on their channel. I'm going to say that one more time, Crystal Moon Dolls. And they sent me this box. Look at that with a symbol.
Wow. So cool.
And let me get this out so that you can see. So they sent me my very own customized Jean Morisson doll.
Oh,
Jean Morisson Barbie. Okay, wait. I need to fix her hair because she can't go out like that. I don't even know what I was thinking. Okay, first of all, look at her.
Holy cow, Jean, that's amazing.
Okay.
Oh my God, the red hair is epic.
Right?
The look, everything. That's so good.
Look at the face.
Yeah.
I was like, am I this cute?
Oh
I'm like, this doll is way, way cuter.
She needs some sunglasses, and that's
okay,
you, baby, all the way.
Wait.
I love it.
Okay, look at this.
So good.
Look at this. So the outfit, the little shoes, it has a little microphone stand. Amazing. I was just like, that was so sweet and so beautiful. And their channel is so cool. And so I want to give a special thanks to Nyx and Dia for making this beautiful, beautiful doll. for the love and support. And again, their YouTube channel is Crystal Moon Dolls, and they do doll customization and reviews on their channel. And if you want a Jean Morisson doll, hit them up, or you can message me on Instagram. I'll hook you up with them. And yeah, I just thought that was so sweet. And
That's
I just
so
need
cool.
to give a shout out.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But I've
That's
had
incredible.
so much fun being on your show.
Yeah.
You are an amazing host.
Oh.
I'm going to tell you something. Never, ever, ever quit. You were made for this.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And I will make sure that I, text you repeatedly to remind you to keep going. You are a doll.
You're
You are
so
beautiful.
sweet.
You never age.
Oh, you neither. And I'm so glad we got this chance to catch up. So to all the listeners, to all the viewers, please make sure to check out all of Jean's links, her music. Go ahead and get that doll because that's epic and you have to have her on your shelf. And also make sure to check out my website. It's NicoleBurgessMarsh.com. You can find all my links to everything, my socials, my books, all that there. And once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Jean, thank you again so much. I'm so happy to see you.
Thank you for having me. I had such a beautiful time. And yeah, you know what? We're going to do this again, but next time on my show.
Definitely. All right, great. Well, thanks again. And we'll see you in the next episode.